Hello, 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 and welcome to some more painting. It has been quite a while since the last time I was here, but that's due to a lot of other things, like real life and shit happening. But today I will begin the paintwork on a small diorama for my barber. Some of you, if you remember how I look, I kind of have a beard, and my barber, or the barber shop where she works, they always decorate both for Halloween, Christmas, probably also other things I just forgot. And they do such a good job of it that I wanted to contribute something to it. So I decided to make a Christmas diorama with a whole bunch of small elves, or Santa's helpers, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So the first step was to design in Hero Forge a whole bunch of small miniatures and then print them out, different poses, stuff like that. I also did the Santa. The barrel I got, I think, from one of the Danish web shops. They always send small minis or random stuff whenever you order from them. It's pretty cool. I think it was King's Games, whatever they're called. So thank you for that. But there's not really a lot more to it. They're standard small elves. A little dark there. We can zoom in just a little bit, see them better. And they're basically just going to be all reds and greens mostly. I figure that's kind of be the colors. And also, since these are just actually decoration for the diorama, what I'll be doing is just using some speed paints or contrast paints maybe for some of it. I don't know, I actually don't think I have a really good red one, but anyway, we'll see how it goes. The reason for using the speed paints contrasts is to not spend too much time highlighting, shading, and things like that. These are just going to be scattered. There's like a dozen of them. They're going to be scattered all over the terrain. So no point in spending 2-3 hours per mini when you can hopefully spend a lot less. I'll also be using something new that I only recently discovered, which is really great for especially the speed paint type of paints that you don't want on your wet palette. I think it's called a fidget popper, because you have these small holes on dentures or bowls that you can pop and keep your fingers active. But these are made from silicone, so super flexible and bendable. But that also means, since silicone, that paint don't really stick to it. So there's some dried up speed paint, which actually doesn't come off that easily because it was almost all used up. But anyway, you see it does come off in flakes, which means that if I actually just took a small piece of cloth or something like that, it would be fixable super fast. Anywho, they're perfect for just mixing up the speed paints. And the speed paint is flaking a little bit. So yeah. Don't really seem like we have any actual subscribers yet, but that's fine. I'll just quietly sit here painting until someone shows up. I'll talk about random stuff as always. And I should of course mention that the intro music we heard was the track Secret Muse, made by Chilean, who's a good friend of mine. Should be links, at least in the description when this come out on YouTube or other places, to his work. I think it's on Bandcamp or SoundCloud, can't remember. And the background music we're listening to now is, as always, Adrian van Ziegler, who does this really amazing atmospheric music, and it's even possible to use it for streams like this, especially non-commercial projects. So yeah, go check him out as well. Should be links in the various descriptions. So anyway, what we have here. Now just mixing up. I'm gonna try thinning down the paints a little bit with some just normal speed paint medium. Mostly because I would rather have a really visible contrast in the models than I would have sort of more realistic shading. Because again, these are just decorations to go on the diorama. And also I need to be super careful. Today I'm probably not going to be gluing my fingers together, but I predict that at some point I will prick my fingers with the needles. I tend to glue needles to the bottom of small items like this because it makes it so much easier to mount it. I usually use some kind of foam for the for the diorama, for the terrain, and just having the needle just sticking in with some glue helps keep everything in place. But it also means that there's sharp objects around, and we'll see how it goes. Anywho, yeah. I'd be super surprised if the stream actually amounts to anything, because I think I haven't streamed since February, maybe March. So, but at least, I mean, it looks like it's online. I had some problems. The microphone, for some reason, Windows keep forgetting that the microphone needs to run at a specific bitrate. So whenever I reboot the computer, I have to go in again. And no, inaugural, not interested. Now, if I had any moderators left, I could ask them to politely just remove the message, and maybe not so politely ban that. Philip up. Hey, Kestrel, good to see you. I don't know how much of the intro you got, but we're painting Santa's Little Helpers today. Doing a diorama for my barber. But yeah, what's up? How you been? Anyway, the good thing about painting wooden barrels is that they're super forgiving, especially this one that has really clear patterns in the wood. I mean, you can even see it on camera even at a distance. So the speed paints and contrasts are just super nice to work with. This is a dark brownish color that just goes really well. I thinned it down quite a bit, as I said before, because I'd rather have them a little bit too light or bright or whatever than having them too dark, because there's going to be stuff down in the shadows even if it's bright, and seeing it at a distance, it's so much easier when you have the kind of bright foreground or whatever raised edges, the ones you get with a thinner paint. Also, hands have really started shaking over the past 6 months. Probably just need the practice. Yeah. think we can get away with zooming in just a little bit. We are gonna get the lamp in the way, but I kind of need the lamp, or rather the what's it called, magnifying glass. I kind of need that to be able to actually see the models, or at least paint them properly. So yeah, if I was 20 years old and had good eyes, it wouldn't be necessary. Also, can I maybe do... whatever. I was thinking about maybe doing something about the Bambot, but hey, since it made its message, who cares? No, but the diorama is slowly starting to take form. I need to have it finished by the end of November. So naturally I had to go and give myself other painting projects in November as well, but I'm kind of hoping that the momentum will just keep me going all month. And since I think it would be fun to actually at least document for posterity, I'll be doing some of the work on the terrain and stuff here. It's probably going to be difficult because it is a huge box that's going to fit into the shelves in the barbershop. It's just about, I think, 30 by 30 centimeters, roughly 28, 26. So it will take up quite a lot of space on the table. But I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, okay, so now how to get this one actually put back onto, yeah, we can do it like this. I have this polystyrene foam block that I put all the elves in. And again, for those who didn't see it in the beginning, all the little elves that needs to be painted in blues and reds. Yeah, candy canes and airplanes and everything. One of them is even passed out drunk. But anyway, this guy was all jumping around, and I think he's pretty easy to paint, so we'll just go ahead. I also need a little sip of water. I am surprisingly unused to actually speaking for any length of time. Hey Emily, good to see you. I saw that you were streaming a while back, but I didn't have time to actually catch the stream. Oh, and again, you really need to talk to your boss about all that work. Sounds really bad, but thank you for stopping by and saying hi. We're painting Christmas elves. So yes, and that's the thing about streaming on Sundays. Some friends of mine have lured me into watching the NFL games with them, and they're kind of right in the middle of your streaming schedule. But I will try to catch your streams from time to time. It's not like I'm super into football or anything like that. It's just really, really cozy and fun to just go down there. We have some good dinner, relax, have a good time, chat, and so on. So yeah, it's more about the company than the football, really. But hey, you guys are good company as well. So what are you doing this Sunday? And there we go. I think that's where you're streaming. Lost in Dark solo adventure book. Okay, so it's yeah, as I said, continuation of the story. But yeah, that's super cool. I recently played a lot with the 2d6 dungeon solo dungeon crawler. There isn't really a lot of adventure in it, in the sense of storyline plots, but it is actually a really good sort of procedurally generated solo dungeon game. So again, I highly recommend that. I don't have a link prepared for it, but should be easy to find if anyone want to look. But yeah, anyway, have an absolutely smashing day. I look forward to catching you soon, and if not before your next game session, then I hope you have a lot of fun and hope you have a good stream when you get to it on Sunday. And say hi to John and everyone for me. Okay, so I'm not entirely convinced that this red one, I'm trying to hold it out. I mean, it is red, but it should probably be noted that the paint is actually called Slaughter Red, which is kind of eerie. It's rather pink-ish in tone, you know, to the point where with a little bit of white or thinned down even more, it would be perfect for the candy cane. So I'm not entirely sure, but then again, on the other hand, now I've actually used it, may as well continue. And how does it actually sit on the model? Nah, it's sitting fine enough. Let's do some green. We have choices. Shamrock green looks really bright, but then again, that is what we're going for, isn't it? Now I'm just gonna see how this holds up without thinning. Now this is not on a white primer or surface, mind you. It's just on a just gray primer. I don't know if it has a fancy name. It's the Army Painter gray airbrush primer. This actually looks pretty okay. So let's go for that. Oh yes, there it is. That is really brilliant and bright green color. Perfect for this. Now I'm being quite liberal with the paint here, as you should with the speed paints and contrast, to really let it soak and just let it follow the it's called the shape of the miniature, or the recesses and highlights. And I don't really care about getting it over on the hands, or there's a belt between the trousers or pants. What is the difference between pants and trousers? Someone is bound to know. I probably did at some point. But anyway, I don't really care too much about avoiding the belt, for instance, because I'll be painting that in later. and I'll do that a lot more detailed and carefully. So now, for now, I just really need to get this green onto the blouse. And once that is done, we'll come up with I think we're just gonna go with the red again for the hat. We also need something for his color. But if we're doing red and green, that should probably be yellow to make it absolutely terrible and horrible to look at. Wait, green. Looking at my color wheel, I think kind of a bright, sort of rebelish blue might do the trick. To at least pretend that we're thinking about the colors. Yeah, like that. He gets to go there. I also need to pick up the pace because basically this should not take this long. It should go way faster. We're just gonna do a whole bunch of them. And me painting faster also means me speaking less, talking less, which I am sure a lot of you will appreciate. I also don't really know how long I've been streaming today, since it's the first time in a really long time. But I would like to get at least the base coats of the elves done. Then I can always do the... I mean, the speed paints and contrasts, they are dry within a few minutes, not as slower, not as fast as normal acrylics, but I do like to at least leave them overnight to make them properly harden up. Probably not necessary at all, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. And I'll do the hands and the feet and the face, and a few details here and there. And the details, as I've noticed when doing things for dioramas, doesn't really have to be all that precise or, well, detailed really. People will not be picking up the miniature and looking at it close up. It will be sitting behind the Christmas tree. And yes, I 3D printed a Christmas tree for this. But I do have some problems with a resin printer. I have problems getting it properly hardened. So you need the UV light to harden the resin, but the inside of the Christmas tree, I mean, I can't have a UV curing chamber, and the light doesn't really seem to get into the open. It's kind of hollow but has an open bottom. Doesn't really seem to get into the inner parts properly, so that still had uncured resin in, which is not good. So I do have some UV LEDs lying around that I should probably just hook up to a power supply, so they can actually get cured. I mean, you just wire up a couple to a resistor and a power supply, and just basically stuff them into the middle of the Christmas tree, leave them on for a while, and that should take care of things. But you know, I didn't really have it ready, so yeah, maybe tomorrow. It's kind of both the good thing and bad thing about resin is that it can easily wait until tomorrow because it doesn't cure until it's hit by UV light. It doesn't dry out oddly or anything. The downside is that it is still toxic to have lying around, and I currently use my bedroom for these things, which is fine because I can, you know, just close the door, open the windows, then neither me nor the cats will be poisoned by the resin, but it also means that I need to kind of find a solution for this before I go to bed, because otherwise I may be breathing in the fumes, and even if it's just a little bit of resin left and it's not, you know, right next to my bed, I still kind of don't feel good about having poisonous chemicals out in the open when I'm sleeping. That just feels wrong, if you know what I mean. And if you don't know what I mean, you need to seriously reconsider some of your, you know, personal safety standards. Okay, apart from me not streaming for a really long time, I've also not painted for a really long time. And that actually, I can feel that. Don't really have kind of the same techniques, doesn't really go as smoothly as normally. I mess up a lot more, but that is okay. Again, because the details of these miniatures are gonna be not hidden or obscured, but just sort of trumped by the rest of the diorama. So this is actually a good project to get back into painting. Now the other project I have going for November is, again, November is NaNoWriMo month. NaNoWriMo is the National Novel Writers Month, which is basically a global project event aimed at helping people get started on writing books, fiction, short stories, not necessarily fiction, anything really. And the basic goal is write a book defined as 50,000 words in 1 month. Doesn't have to be edited, doesn't have to be coherent. Just write the raw material, because then you can always, you know, pick up later on, do the editing, do all the other things. That will come easier once you actually have some material to work with. Now I just need to compare, because we have the thinned and unthinned reds. I think I'm gonna go with thinned. So, but anyway, for the Danish branch of the NaNoWriMo, last year I did a project where every week the other writers they could submit, well, they could submit many times during the month, but they could submit one of their characters with a short description. And again, going to Hero Forge, they could design the miniatures, and then I would 3D print it, and then I would paint it on the live stream. We had a lot of fun with that. And hopefully have a lot of fun again this year. Not as many submissions yet. I think we only have 4.5. But the deadline is Sunday. And this year I will be printing them in large sizes. So instead of just having a small 28mm scale like these dudes here, they're actually gonna go up into full. I'm gonna double the height and the width and depth to fit everything. But I can actually show an example of that. More or less show it at least. So I'm just messing around with the cameras. See, this is what happens when we haven't streamed in over 6 months. Everything is kinda out of whack. Doesn't really sit well, doesn't really pick up correctly. There we go. So for comparison, so Santa is about 28 millimeters, and the guy next to him is about, that would be 56 millimeters height. So that makes the miniatures a lot bulkier, but it also makes it so much easier to see all the different details, and to some degree makes it easier to paint. It makes it a lot easier to paint all the details and make things like, you know, the fading or going from one color to another a lot easier, because it's larger, it's easier to see the miniature. But actually doing the shading effects and highlights is a little bit more tricky, because you have more real estate, you have a larger miniature, so you have a larger surface. You need to make a gradient from dark to bright. You need to make that a lot easier. So, anywho, let's do the next one. Should we be super fancy and try to do a, you know, 2 colored pants and 2 colored shirt? Just to give a little bit of variation, you know, from one elf to the next. I mean, I figure Santa's helpers are not exactly the kind of people I sort of envision in formal uniforms with precise color patterns and strict discipline about your shirts being in one color and pants in another and stuff like that. I see them more as, I mean, they're creative beings. They make Christmas presents. They like happy times, and they like dressing up and partying, having fun. So yeah. So we're gonna do this. And yeah, I can also feel that I'm not actually using a paint handle for these ones. Oh shoot. The back of the shirt is going to be tricky, because that requires me to draw a fairly straight line. Which kind of succeeded. I mean, the front of the shirt is a lot easier, because there's a row of buttons or whatever, some kind of structure to follow, and of course the belt between the pants and the shirt. But that's fun. It's always good to be challenged a little bit. Now, I considered doing a slap chop on these, and for those who know, or those who don't know what it is, slap chop is when you take a miniature, basically paint it black, and then dry brush a whole bunch of white on it. A little bit like cenital highlights. You want the raised and upper parts of the miniature to be white, and the lower parts and shadows, recessed parts, to be black. And then have some kind of simple gradient in between, and then you just slap on a lot of the again the contrast paints, speed paints on them. However, I also want these elves to be super bright, and while slap chop gives really good results, they also have a little bit of a grim dark style to them. Yeah, that went pretty well. I mean, he's not tucking in his shirt as neatly as he should, so it doesn't match up with his pants. But I mean, we're talking about a guy who's dancing around with a candy cane. So I mean, I think we can be a little lenient when it comes to the are your shirt tucked in straight department. Also, I did have a barrel that should be dry enough that I can paint the bottom. Again, it's a good thing it's a diorama because we actually have skulls on the barrel here. I'm guessing it's from sort of some kind of medieval fantasy setting. So we have a Maltese cross with a skull in the middle. I don't know if it's some kind of Templar order in Warhammer or whatever it's supposed to be, but not really what you would associate with Christmas. But, you know, I'll just angle the barrel a little bit and leave it out to the side or whatever, so the skulls are not too glaringly obvious. Also, why am I painting the bottom of the barrel? It's just going to be down into the sort of, what's it called, ground snow of the diorama. I don't know. There we go. So anyway, just needed to do that while I remembered, otherwise I would pack up everything and then tomorrow I'd look at this half-painted barrel and go, crap. So, I could also, of course, go for other colors than just green and red. I should do that. Because there really are not that many color combinations when you only use 2 colors and have essentially just 2 parts you want to paint with them. Let me just throw in some... What are good Christmassy colors? Other than red and green. Would blue work? I mean, if it's a nice, rich, yet brown yeah, that should work, I guess. We'll do blue. Okay, I had forgotten how much streams are really just about me thinking out loud and saying all the random shit that comes into my mind. And yeah, my thought of train of thought or whatever really is like that on my own. It's kind of like doing, oh, can I do blue as a Christmassy color for these helpers? Would that be okay? Should they all just be green? Blah blah blah. And I'll actually have kind of an internal, I don't know if it's a dialogue or monologue. Monologue makes it kind of borderline dysfunctional, I guess. Not like borderline the it's not even called borderline anymore. Not the is it this disease, state of mind, illness, condition, but just in the almost but not quite. Yeah, just as I said before, just when I said before that I only have so many options when I only have 2 colors, I just realized that I do have the option of only using 1 color. So completely skipping the green on this one. Maybe using the green for the color. That actually ups the choices a little bit. Now for the candy canes, I'll wait with them until probably the end, but my plan is to do it again super simple and just use a very nice pink speed paint and then just dry brushing it with white, hoping to just make it look like it actually has the swirls, whatever, the 2 colors spinning around each other. Now, since it is going to a barbershop, the really neat thing to do would actually to hand paint them. Maybe I'll do that with one of them and place it more central. Actually do all 3 colors, so you have both the blue, white, and red, which are the the traditional spinny poles outside of barbershops, hairdressers. Now I cannot remember what the colors are supposed to symbolize. I think it's something about back in the day, barbershops would also be to some degree doctors, and you would have blood for the red, but I can't remember. And when you can't remember, instead of guessing, what you should do is you should just go look it up. And these kind of things are usually documented quite nicely. Twice around. Same if you're arguing with someone and you can't remember something, and people get into arguments about if it's this or that. It's kind of like, just go look it up. It's easy. Just find it. And also, everyone remember to hydrate, because we need our fluids. It's a little bit too much. So yeah, ooh, the green one is perfect. Now, in addition to the elves, what I'm also working on, and I have actually been spending way too much time on for the diorama, is actually to have built-in lights, because I want blinking lights on the Christmas diorama. It kind of goes without saying. My first thought was just to go, oh yeah, we'll do lights. Perfect. Super simple. Again, just you get the small LEDs that are meant for dioramas, miniatures, for building into stuff like this. They're super great because they're really small. They come with a resistor attached, so I mean that's a little bit of soldering work you avoid. But they, why did I say but? Anyway, they come pre-assembled with resistors, so you basically just have to plug them in and just basically add them straight to a light source. You can even get small battery clamps for the, what they call the small 3 voltage cells, the small round ones you use in clocks or things like that, small batteries. But you can also, and that's where the blinking part comes in, you can also just wire all of it up to a small microcontroller and then make different kinds of patterns. So you'll have some diodes that fade in and out. You'll have other diodes who are just either on or off or whatever. You'll have some that blink, and you can do sort of a spooky, eerie flickering, as if so a lamp is about to break. All those kind of things. And once you have a microcontroller and can just program it, I mean, you can really just do anything you want. A good friend of mine suggested doing Morse code, so you can just have one diode or set of diodes that just blink a small message in Morse code, and then that would be super cool. So I mean, and it's super simple. Just take like a small Arduino boards. They have plenty of outputs. The diodes meant for dioramas, they really don't use a lot of current. So I think they come with a 1.5 kilo ohm resistor attached. So if you run it straight off an Arduino, which is running at 5 volts, which would be the easy thing to do, because then you can just power it through the USB stick. USB stick is the Danish word for connector. So with the Arduinos, you can just connect them to the USB port or to a power bank and draw the power directly from there. So at 5 volt and a 1.5 kilo ohm, that's going to be cat brain, just over 3 milliamperes. So let's assume we have a 20,000 milliamp hour power bank, and we're running the Arduinos. Arduino is probably going to take up the majority of it. I cannot remember the power consumption, but let's assume we're not stressing it out too much. I think it's somewhere between 1 and 200 milliamp amps. So running that one would be able to run for about 100 hours before running out of juice. But with 3 point something milliamps, let's say we have 100 LEDs, that would be 300 milliamps, and 200 for the Arduino, 500, then it would be able to run for 40 hours straight with 100 light diodes. That's a lot of light for a small diorama. So more realistically, I think we're gonna end up at about 30 or 40 LEDs. And I think realistically, the Arduino is not gonna take, well, I'm not using an Arduino, I'm using something else. And I think I looked them up to go between 70 milliamps to 120 with an ESP82 something board, which is kind of the Wi-Fi board for the Arduino development boards. But it runs its own processor and it has the Wi-Fi built in. And now we're getting to the point. Because I said Wi-Fi. And yes, you would be correct in assuming that Wi-Fi means that the entire diorama will be connected to the internet. And it will, once I get around to writing the software for it, it will be possible to go into a small website and log in with the username and password, obviously, because security. We don't want just anyone to control my barber's blinking lights. But basically just make a small configuration website and then just have the ESP board once per minute or something like that, just connect to the Wi-Fi, pull down the configuration, check if it's changed, and if it's changed, just reset everything, and if it's the same, just do nothing. So yeah, that is the plan. So I'm having so much fun thinking about ideas for how the actual diorama should look. All the small models and Hero Forge, and then instead of actually doing the diorama, because that's how I function as a person. Instead of doing the diorama, I spend so much time getting back into the microcontroller development. It's been a couple of years since I've done that. What's it called? Yeah, so I spent a lot of time on that, trying to figure out how to do it. And then when it came to actually both blinking the LEDs and making connections to the big old internet, I mean, mind you, most of this is actually just standard libraries that I use. I don't actually program the wireless protocols or anything like that. People have made really wonderful libraries for that, so it's just plug and play, really. But I still ran into problems because doing the HTTP requests for the web server to get the configuration, with the standard libraries, that would be a synchronous call or a blocking call, which means that unless I really do some restructuring of the code and do a lot of weird hoops, which are not easily done as far as I could understand on these ports, all the lights would stop blinking every time I checked for an updated configuration. Now we can't have that because blinking lights gotta blink. Need a color for the hat. It's gonna different color for the hat. Brown? Not brown. Boring stuff. No, so then I had to look into other libraries, and those libraries were there, and they were surprisingly easy to use. So I found an asynchronous TCP library that actually just runs in the background, and once it's finished with the connection, it just calls it a function, and then you can super easy do things without losing the blinking lights. So that's good. So what do we have? We have Beowulf Blue coming from Denmark and Scandinavia. We kind of like Beowulf, one of the old poems. I think it classifies as a poem about the whole Beowulf arriving at the High King's Hall, or the King's High Hall, or whatever, and they're besieged by the monster Grendel. And Beowulf have to go down into Grendel's lair and fight not only Grendel, but also Grendel's mother, which is an interesting detail. But hey, it is, I think, one of the... It is an old, then we're not sort of judging it or evaluating it. It is an old poem written in Old English, I believe. It's about 1,000 years old, give or take. So it's a classic story. It's been made into movie films a couple of times. Once as an animated movie, I think, and the other was, I think Antonio Banderas's The 13th Warrior kind of picks on at least a part of this story, because they do go into the cave, but there's not an actual monster, Grendel. It's like a tribe of savage people living in the mountain, pretending to be bears or whatever. So pretending to be monsters, but kind of with an explanation as to why it's not a monster, but it is a monster-like attitude, which I think is a pretty good way of doing it, actually. All in all, actually, I really enjoyed that movie. Partly because all the Vikings that are in it talk a variety of the Scandinavian languages. So some will speak a little bit of Norwegian, some will speak a little bit Swedish, Danish. I think there's also some Icelandic in it, which is kind of weird because, as far as I know, people kind of went to Iceland. They didn't come back again in large enough numbers that there would be a lot of people bringing the language back to the old country. I don't know. So what's the judgment? Is blue a properly Christmassy color? I think that this can actually work. Not sure if it's Christmassy, but it works. So what do we have next up? Next to this one is a little bit more complex. Yeah, then we can do the red on the... Yeah, we're gonna do green and blue. Highly irregular colors for a Christmas elf. Are they unionized? Does anyone know that? again, I mean, I'm kind of sitting here telling myself not to fix all the small mistakes because I just immediately begin going into that kind of, oh, there's a small white dot here, and then I kind of have, trying to teach myself that it doesn't matter because it's on the back end of the miniature, or the back side of the miniature, on the lower half, sort of pointing down even, so that it's not going to be visible at all once this goes into the diorama. But a really large part of me just goes into the whole kind of like, no, but someone will be able to see it, or at least I will know that it's there, and if I know it's there, then it's not good enough, and it's kind of like, it doesn't matter. Get it painted. Paint it, get it out the door, and then get started working on the actual diorama. And I mean, they do the Christmas decorations around late November, so it's up and running for December 1st. So kind of only have about 4 weeks to finish this, which seems like a lot, but you know, time flies, and all of a sudden, you know, you didn't get any work done on this week because other things came in the way, or God forbid you had some actual real work you had to do, like poor Emily who's out toiling away to be able to pay for Christmas presents, or whatever. But yeah, all of a sudden, you know, time passes really fast all of a sudden. So I really wanted to get at least these ones painted, because once they're painted, I don't have to worry about that. Then I can just add them as decoration to the end, at the end of the building the diorama. And also, in addition to the elves, I have a whole bunch of small toys, teddy bears. Even found some fancy little mushrooms that can go all over the place as well, just to be able to make the actual landscape fairly simple, and then use the decorations to add depth and detail. Now, instead of carving out a lot of rocks and doing a lot of details in modeling up the terrain, we just do some simple hill, kind of a structure I have in mind. It's a simple hill with the entrance to the barber shop to one side, and then having the entrance to the barber shop on the right side of the diorama, and then building up a hill towards the back and towards the left, and then having a plateau with the large Christmas tree, which is going to be larger even than the Santa Claus I printed out. I think that one is about 7-8 centimeters. And then just sprinkling the elves and the small gifts and toys and mushrooms and whatever else I find. I think I have some boxes and barrels and a lot of stuff like that. That can just easily just give a lot of detail where there really isn't any detail, and that tricks the mind into thinking that it looks good. And that's the cue there, tricking people into thinking that it looks good. So that's like this little dude. He looks good, doesn't he? So yeah. Also, pro tip for those of you who actually paint: do not use your expensive, super awesome brushes for the speed paints and contrasts. It's not good on them. The way the medium works, it's not just water and the normal medium, and this actually seeps up a lot more into the ferrule. I think it's called the metal part here, especially where the hairs of the brush, where that actually meets the ferrule. That a lot of the contrast paint and speed paints will seep up there, because they're designed to seep up into areas like that, and it can be really, really tricky to get out properly from your brush. And even if you clean it out properly, at the end you may actually risk that just during the painting process they may actually be broken. Seems like a kind of what's it called? Bit of a harsh word to use, but I mean, they can't be damaged by it. So yeah. Now for the gifts that this guy is holding, I don't really care about, you know, the Christmassy colors, because Christmas gifts come in all colors. It's just the clothes and the elves should definitely be reasonably Christmassy. So I already hit it with some green here on the back of the gift. But again, it doesn't really matter because the brown is going to cover most of it up, so it does have a bit of a green tint to it. But no one is going to be able to see that. Just like with his fingers underneath the package or gift. No one will ever actually see that, so why spend a lot of time making it perfect? So there we go. I'll do the bow later once the color on the package is actually dried out. I'll do the other one, orange. So, well, what else have we? What other news do we have from the real world? I don't know. Maybe just to say that I'm actually speaking of work before. I'm actually not working at the moment. I had the privilege of being able to take some time off, which I'm doing, to just relax, enjoy life a little bit, just chill, play a lot of disc golf. Trying to get back into painting, and yeah, you know, doing all the things you really want to do when you're retired, but just doing it before I actually do retire. And yeah, as some of you know, a large part of the reason for me also taking a break is that about 6 months ago, my dad passed away from cancer. It was, yeah, it was foreseeable in some ways, and it went gracefully quick at the end, if you can say such a thing. But even so, that's always cause for just stopping and asking yourself, I mean, what are you really doing? You know, in your current job, are you really happy there? Do you need to just spend some time doing other things? And yeah, so I decided to leave my job and spend some time just being me, really relaxing, spending time with friends, that kind of thing. Not like the whole midlife crisis, at least I don't think that's what it was or is, but it's kind of like the whole, spend your days the way you want to spend them. And as I said, I have the privilege of actually being able to sustain myself for a while. It's one of the great advantages of being a software developer is that it pays well. So there is that. Yeah, and of course a large part of it is also, you know, grief processing. My dad was the main inspiration, motivation, influence on me becoming curious about everything. He was the kind of person, he was a physicist. So, and he knew a lot about some highly technical science stuff. He's pretty much the person who taught me how to program when I was about 6. Not by sitting me down and teaching me how to program, but just by exposing me to computers and exposing me to, we had a Texas Instruments TI-99, kind of like the C64, at least that era of computers. You attach it to the television and stuff like that. But it came with a built-in basic compiler. And naturally, since my dad had actually learned to program when he was in university, that was kind of a natural thing for him to just pass on to me and my sister. So we would be sitting there making either really, really simple programs we came up with ourselves, or just typing in programs from magazines. And then they would do something. They would be small games or whatever, and we would be typing in hundreds of lines of code and then trying to run it, and something had been typed in wrong, and we had to figure out where it was and stuff like that. But that started when I was around 6 years old. So that was pretty early exposure. And then later on, when we moved on to PCs and stuff like that, then what color does this guy need? He needs full red on the pants and green on the shirt. No, but then he started looking into doing 3D graphics and doing fractals and actually 3D scenes, and mind you, these, we're not talking like AutoCAD or 3D Studio Max or something like that. These would be programs that calculated, for ray tracing, for instance, calculated how the image should look, like all the other programs do for you. But he was actually writing these programs, and had a number of books that taught these principles, and I kind of tagged along for some of it, and that just kept me, I don't know, in the loop, or kept me interested, or kept me knowledgeable about what computer programs are, what you can do, and all those things. And just at an early age, it taught me how to think in solutions, in terms of, you have something you need to do, why not write a program that does it for you? Anything from, I mean, even basic simple calculations, if it's just, adding a few numbers, maybe not enough for actually writing a program. But if you need something, calculate stuff often, I mean, just do a program that does it for you, and just type in the numbers and do, I don't know, calculations for doing electronics and current, voltage, resistors, those kind of things, or timing, or whatever. All the things you just come up with that you would normally pick up your pocket calculator and type in the same numbers over and over again. Why not just once do a program that implements the formula? I mean, these days, most people, if they do it, they'll probably do it in a spreadsheet like Excel or Google Sheets or OpenOffice, whatever the equivalent is of it. So that takes care of a lot of it. But back in the 80s, you didn't really just have spreadsheets like that. So that's kind of a fun thing to learn, and it's fun to learn something about computer graphics and how nice it actually looks. I mean, back then we were doing 320 by 200 pixels, maybe 16 colors. I don't know if we actually did 250 colors, 256 colors, sorry. But I mean, we might have. I'm thinking colors now. We need green. So this was really, really basic stuff, but it just looked so nice. I mean, this would, mind you, run all night to calculate that picture. So we set it up, and you didn't have an editor, so you just typed in the numbers. Like, I want a sphere at this coordinate, and I want it with this size, and then I want a triangle. Not triangle, it's called a cone is the word for a three-dimensional triangle, or you want a pyramid or a cube or whatever. And then you calculate, measure out, or maybe do a program that was, since we're talking programs here, you would of course write a program that calculated where should all these spheres be if you wanted to do like a pool table, and do, when you rack up the balls in the beginning of a game, you can just calculate where the spheres should be, so they just barely intersect, just bump up against each other, and then you'd run the program and it would run, give some status messages like how many lines it's done or how far it is, stuff like that, so you can see that it hasn't clogged up somewhere. And then the next morning, before going to school, go look at the computer and run another program that could actually show the image that the program had generated, and look at the results and go, oh, something went wrong. So we're really talking about a really long time, turnaround time to fixing errors, for instance, fixing bugs. There were some errors in, I don't know, the lighting model or whatever. It would take a couple of hours to actually run the program, do the calculations, and then you could go, okay, so the colors are completely off. Okay, then you need to debug your code. And my dad did most of it, because back then I was still, I don't know, 10, 11 years old. I was not that good at programming. But remembering those things and how long it took for a single pass, I think it actually was a good exercise to have, because it taught me a little bit about the cost of testing code. And it's not usually something people think about, because you just run the program and then you look at the errors and then you see what happens. But when the cost of your code is that you have to wait 8 hours, and all of a sudden you really want to fix as many errors as possible at the same time, and you also want to not just do a simple, oh hey, I'll just put in some debug statements to see what the numbers are. You actually really want to do proper preparations for your next run, so those 8 hours will not be wasted. So, but anyway, it was fun exercises to do, and yeah, we had fun doing it. And it just got me into that kind of thinking. And once it's there, once you have that kind of thing, if it catches you, then I really think you just think about it in that way. And then going to school later on, learning how to program larger things, it didn't actually feel wrong or bad, or it's just kind of like, yeah, sure, of course, that's what we do. So yeah, I need a good color for his hat. Should it be green? Should it be red? It should be red. I actually really need to go out and find a better red for the next project, because this is, as I said, it's called Slaughter Red, and it is kind of the right way to describe it is, I think it would be kind of gore-ish. I think it has a little, actually, kind of combination of a little bit of both pinkish tint, as well as a dulled down kind of almost brownish tone. So it's not kind of the vibrant red you'll see on a fire truck, for instance. It is kind of this nitty gritty. It's kind of like someone spilled blood all over his hat. Maybe someone did, maybe someone didn't. Who knows? Maybe that is the great mystery of Christmas. But yeah, turning out pretty nice. And again, my standard test is just hold it out. You can't see it. Hold it out. You see up here in front of my face and see, does it look good if I look at it from this distance and kind of go, yep, I can see some shading in the colors. I can't because the light is not hitting it. Then kind of go, yeah, sure, look good. So we have full green, we have full red. We need a blue. We need a blue elf. Maybe we need a blue elf holding an airplane. No, candy cane. So I said blue elf holding a candy cane. I think the goal for tonight is to get the base colors on all the elves. That should be doable. If I get myself a little bit into gear. And then we're at a good point to do the details and the colors and stuff like that. That would be color with an A, not color with an OU. Or color with an O. Some people say. I mean, the thing with the speed paint, if you take the time to do the shading and highlights, layering up the highlights, you're gonna get, in my opinion, more aesthetically pleasing results than the speed paints. But the speed paints just make it so easy to paint like the bulk of your army or a whole bunch of elves like this. There's 12 or 13 of them, so it's not like it's hundreds, but still, if I had to do it in the normal way, I would probably spend a few hours per mini. Here I think I can do all the minis in, realistically speaking, 5 hours or something like that, which would save me over 30 hours of work. So, and it gives a result that is really good for what I need the minis for. So yeah. And also, if you try to do the sort of normal style layering with the highlights and all that, if you mess it up and don't really do it well, it's gonna be, in my opinion, a worse result than just doing a quick paint job with the contrast and speed paint. So there's that as well. So, as far as I can tell, I only have 4 elves left to paint. Let's do another multicolored. As I did, that was kind of fun to paint. Takes a little bit longer, but does add a little bit of variety to the scene. And that is important. Well, it's important to me. So, by all means, don't take anything I say as objective truths. They're not. They're just my views on this topic, and it is a creative process. It is entirely up to your own tastes if you like this or not. Just like with any other things, like what food you eat or paintings you like, what, all those stuff. You know what I mean. Oh, speaking of paintings, just leaping around in my mind as always, I recently actually got some, not paintings, but pictures for the living room. I removed my, what's it called? My speaker systems and surround receiver for the TV because I hardly ever turned it on anymore. So I figured the TV has good enough sound built in that I use it, and all the speakers and it just, the surround part, it just takes up so much space And so I just took it down. I mean, it's just in the basement. If I feel like I need it, I can always put it up again. So it's not like it's been thrown out or anything dramatic like that. It's just kind of, I don't use it. Let's see how it goes without. And it goes really well. But once I took it down, I actually realized that I had a very annoying echo in my living room. So if I sat in the couch, for instance, and snapped my fingers, I would be able to hear this almost metallic echo bouncing back and forth a couple of times. And that just really, really annoyed me. So I spoke to a couple of people about different solutions for that. And my sister pointed me in the direction of a company that makes these sort of sound dampening picture frames, where you can either add your own picture, upload it, and they will cut it out, or you can just use one of the standard motifs. And it turned out they actually had one I just really liked. It's basically black, but then in golden lines they have printed or painted or whatever, made a mountain scene, really sort of abstract in many ways, but it looks super great and it's just really, really pleasant to look at. So I got that, or rather 3 of them as a set, so it's kind of a tritych, whatever it's pronounced. That thing where you have 3 paintings that form in that entire, each of them has a visible motive, but in their entirety they kind of go together as well to make a broader, wider motive, whatever it is. Yeah, you get the point. This is my point. So I got those and they look really good, and they've just completely removed the echo. So that was totally worth getting those, and then spending some time, getting it up. It's like, I think there's 3 of them. Each of them is 70 by 100 centimeters, 70 wide, 100 tall. So it's almost 2.5 meters it takes up in the length on my wall. So it really just takes up all the space behind the couch. But it looks, I really like the look of it. It's kind of not only dampening the sound, but also dampening kind of the entire room in a good way, and it breaks the monotony of white walls, or without making a lot of sort of visual noise in the form of 50 paintings or photographs hanging on the wall or whatever. It's kind of a combined motive, and the scene is nice and quiet. Really works well for me. So yeah, it's really, really nice. So anyway, I think actually on second thought I will just be doing the pants and hats on this little guy, and then I'll call it a day. I'm beginning to feel that I'm not used to painting, which means that I get a little tired in my wrist, and also it doesn't help that since I'm not using my paint handle, I'm actually just holding them with my left hand with 2 fingers around a small pin. Like you use for, I don't know, backboards or whatever they're called. Just a small pin, so kind of tensing up a little bit in my left hand, and I don't want to stress it. I'd much rather be able to paint again tomorrow than having to wait a few days. So I'm just gonna finish this guy up really quick, and then I will say a proper goodbye. But while I do this, it's been absolutely wonderful to be back streaming. Really happy that all the tech pretty much still worked. A couple of updates here and there, not surprising. But I mean, all the scenes are still here, OBS. It works, the shortcuts works, I have my playlist, and speaking of that, the music that we've been listening to all night has been Adrian von Seeker. Check him out on YouTube, or I can't remember if he's on Bandcamp or SoundCloud. I think Bandcamp. The intro music was Secret Muse by Jillian, who's a good friend of mine who actually made it specifically for these streams. I wanted something slightly dramatic that builds up but never really comes to a full climax or crescendo or whatever. That's probably a good name for it. But he did that for me. I'm really happy. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And yeah, go check him out as well. There will be a link in the description, all the other places. I have been your friendly miniature painter Skjern. I will be back here hopefully on Wednesdays, at least during the winter. In summer, I'll probably be out enjoying the good weather. Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. Have fun, stay safe, and have a good evening.